going on, everybody? It is Tuesday, May the 7th, 2024, 1:03 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name's Dave McRae, coming to you live from the Voiceman Studios in Toronto, Canada. This is episode 257 of McRae Live. This is a little bit of impromptu, spur of the moment. I wasn't planning on going live today at all, but obviously this Friday the 13th news, I was going to go live earlier this morning at about 11 a.m. Eastern, and then I decided not to because I felt that there would be new information that would be coming out throughout the day today. There still may be more information that is going to come out later today or tomorrow at some point. Probably will. It is likely. So yeah, but I wanted to, so I thought I would wait, and it's a good thing I did because new and more information did come out in the time that I was waiting, and I thought I would jump on and discuss sort of the, recent Friday the 13th news that has seemed to get everybody's knickers in a twist, as the English like to say. So I have thoughts on this, and if you follow me for any length of time, there will be thoughts you've probably already heard me discuss. But nonetheless, I wanted to get it out there and talk about it because I do think it's important. It never ceases to amaze me how do I say this? Because, I do understand that what I'm about to say could be perceived as condescending and pretentious, and I don't mean it that way at all. I sincerely don't. But I could understand how somebody who might be a little insecure might think that I'm coming off that way, and that's not how I'm, trying to be at all. I think there are things as fans, and I know I'm beating a dead horse here, and I know that in a perfect world, people would think like this, and that's not going to happen. But it doesn't surprise me. Let me just put it this way. It doesn't surprise me that when the news dropped late last night, that the entire, internet and the horror world sort of lost their minds. And when you actually look at what was being said, there's nothing there. And this is part of the reason and part of the problem, because we live in a very sort of, read the headlines only culture. And then beyond that, there are a lot of people, and I'm not talking about anybody specific, I'm just speaking in a general sense. There are a lot of people that really don't know how to assess or even break down what they're reading or what they're actually looking at. And you get that, as well. And so you get those people that will take that and retweet and reshare and repost and share and then tag their friends in this and do all this. And then it just catches on like wildfire. And the vast majority of the average movie-going fan doesn't have any inkling to how show business works at all. So, they just read a headline and they take something and they go, ah! And it just catches on. And then everybody goes, ah! And everybody hears everybody else going, ah! So they all start going, ah! And everybody's going, ah! When you actually look at what's being said, there's really not a lot there. And it's this ah! is purely based on, speculation and lack of knowledge and insight. And so I wanted to jump on and sort of talk about this and go over sort of what's been happening, because I do think it's important. I really do. And again, for those of you that may not know, the reason why I'm a bit of a stickler for this kind of stuff is because of how I grew up. I grew up in a media family. My father was one of the top journalists in Canada for years. And so I learned a lot from my father, directly and indirectly, and about sources and insights and this and that, and all this kind of stuff. Now, obviously, it was at a time when we were talking about, radio, TV, and newspapers. Now, of course, it's online and social media, which is a very different world, but the principles are still the same. And so, I'm a bit of a stickler for this, because I see a lot of unnecessary when it's like, well, let's just calm the like, hey, hang on a second. And again, I'm not talking about anybody specific. So if you were like, I don't know you, I'm not talking about you. I just mean in a general sense, you know, how you see it generally. People are losing their minds. Oh, fuck us, fuck that, fuck A24, fuck you, fuck that. It's like, you know, like God. And so, you know, and I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not the, you know, I'm not perfect. I'm just simply saying that I think there are things we need to remember when looking at this kind of stuff, because it's incredibly important. You know, not to jump the gun, not to get so wound up over really nothing, very little information at all. And more importantly, how to assess and how to look at what we're actually looking at. So what is the new? What happened? What exactly happened? Let's talk about this. What happened? Okay. So late last night, a gentleman by the name of Jeff Snyder, okay, I'm pretty sure it's not Schneider, it's Snyder, who is, by all accounts, I think a fairly reputable source. He's worked for Collider. He's been in the business a long time. I mean, Jeff is not Billy Bob's fart blog. Okay. I mean, he is somebody that, has been in the, source insight scooping game for quite a while. And he's gotten a lot right. He's gotten, some wrong. I mean, that's just, the nature of the business, right? So it's not like it was, as I said, Billy Bob from Billy Bob's fart blog. I mean, this is a fairly reputable source. It's not the Hollywood Reporter. It's not Deadline. It's not Variety, but it does make you go, oh, that's interesting. Okay. Take it with a grain of salt, right? It's not like you take it and throw it out because it's Billy Bob's fart blog, but you take it and you go, oh, Jeff Snyder said that. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Okay, cool. So he has a website called the InSnyder, by the way. I see a lot of people saying Insider. It's called the InSnyder. It's a play on his last name, InSnyder. And this is a fairly new website. I think this is like new within certainly the last few months, I believe. And most of the stuff is behind a paywall. That's not necessarily a bad thing. He's independent now. I don't believe he works for Collider anymore, although he probably, knows a lot of people that are there. And so he's he wants you to subscribe to his site and all that kind of stuff. So obviously somebody who is subscribed was able to get access to this information. And he had heard that apparently, A24 could be backing out here of the Crystal Lake series. Okay, what's going on, right? So let's go over to the other page here and look at what MovieWeb had to say about this first and foremost. Okay, so let's go to the other. Okay. A24 reportedly pulls the plug on Friday the 13th prequel series Crystal Lake. A24, of course, were the big spearheaders of this. Let's scroll down here and get past some of the fat and get right to what Jeff Snyder actually said. So this is what Jeff Snyder said. Okay, so let's break it down. This is what caused the uproar last night in the horror community. Let's break this down. Okay, so I put on my glasses here. I have my glasses here today. He says, I'm hearing that A24 has pulled the plug on Crystal Lake, its planned Peacock series based on the Friday the 13th franchise featuring masked killer Jason Voorhees. Brian Fuller was due to executive produce the horror series. It's unclear whether this is a permanent decision or a temporary one, as A24 had no comment. So I assume that he reached out to A24. They didn't get back to Jeff, or maybe the source that he's hearing this from had mentioned to Jeff, listen, we've reached out to A24. They, all that kind of stuff, right? Perhaps Peacock will help the trades shed more light on this project, which was announced back in 2022. Now, what does he mean by trades? Well, he's talking about Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, right? He's talking about major, reputable entertainment news out of Hollywood. There are a lot of people in this world that would read that sentence and have no idea what the fuck he's talking about when he means trades, right? And this is part of the problem. There are a lot of people that just read the headline. So there are a lot of people out there that just read this. They just read this and they take that and they share it with their friends and family, right? And then there's people that will go beyond that and actually read what Jeff had mentioned here on his website, the InSnyder, right? And as I said, Jeff is not a completely unknown. He's not Billy Bob's Fart Blog. He has been in the business a long time. And as I said, he's worked for Collider. He's been on a lot of the entertainment shows. So he's not a nobody, okay? But he's not the Hollywood Reporter. He doesn't work for the Hollywood Reporter or Deadline or Variety. So he himself is even saying, perhaps, Peacock will help the trades shed more light on this project, which was announced back in 2022. That is what it has been said. That right there. Now, I can't get behind, I'm not subscribed to the In Snyder, by the way, In Snyder, not In Cider, In Snyder. I'm not subscribed, so there may be more that he had mentioned. I'm not sure. But that is really the crux of what was being shared. And the internet lost their minds. Now, what could this mean? Before we go on to the other article, which adds a bit more, a bit more information, what could this mean? Okay, well, this is Jeff Snyder, pretty reputable source, right? Independent guy, pretty reputable. He's been around for a long time, is saying, I'm hearing that A24 has pulled the plug on Crystal Lake, its planned Peacock series based on the Friday the 13th franchise. Right, okay. It's unclear whether this is a permanent decision or a temporary one. Now, there are a variety of things that could be happening here. A24 could be pulling out, but Peacock could still be in, right? Peacock could be searching for another production company in order to take on the reins of this Crystal Lake TV series, right? Brian Fuller, for those of you that don't know, as wonderful as an EP as he's been in a bit of hot water as of late. Okay, he's had some real major allegations against him not too long ago. So maybe part of the delay is because of him, because maybe they're trying to figure out what to do. What should we do here, Brian? Now, there has not been any official announcement as of this stream that Brian Fuller is out, okay? That's a variable that people need to take into consideration. Is it likely that Peacock and A24 would just ignore these major allegations and just steamroll ahead with Brian Fuller? Look up Brian Fuller. Look up the allegations. This isn't something that's just a fart in the wind that, it's lingering like a fart in the air, I should say. So that's something to keep in mind too. Maybe they're working with, maybe there's something going on there, right? So maybe Peacock is looking for another production company. Maybe Peacock is out, right? Maybe it's going to go somewhere. This in and of itself doesn't necessarily mean that the Crystal Lake series is dead. Okay? It doesn't mean that. Now, you wouldn't necessarily believe that or get that from the headlines. And because, again, in the world of entertainment today, they are not just in the business of covering news, they are in the business of creating news to cover. So that is why you will see, melodramatic headlines and headlines that really get your interest and for clicks and especially online sources, right? They're there for clicks and likes and engagement and views and all this kind of stuff. That is what the business is. And so, but when you look at this objectively, when you look at it old school, through an old school lens, there's not a lot being said here. And certainly not enough that although if I'm in the business of getting likes and views and engagement to my websites and all that kind of stuff, I understand that, this on its own would be a great thing to run with, right? Oh, that'll get people going, ah! Right? So, but when you look at it objectively, there's not a lot here. Like, for example, you guys know that during the Halloween run, right? The 3 David Gordon Green trilogies, I was connected to a few people that were in the know on various different levels with various different things. It's how I was able to tell you, when a trailer was going to drop and be right about it. But I received a lot of information over those 5 or 6 years, a lot of information that I could have done a live stream on or done a video on or done a tweet about or whatever if I really cared about that kind of thing. But I don't care about that. I want to be right. And I'm not saying that Jeff doesn't want to be right. I'm just simply saying that for me, it was like, if I had received this, apparently Halloween, apparently, like, for example, say I received information that was like, hey, you know what, Dave? Apparently I'm hearing that Miramax is pulling the plug on the Halloween TV series. Now, we don't know what's going on yet, and it's uncertain, it's temporary, I'm not really sure. For me personally, I wouldn't bother reporting that because it's so murky. It's so murky, and there's so many different things that could be going on. It doesn't feel concrete enough for me. But Jeff Snyder, and I don't know Jeff, I've never talked to him, so I am purely speculating here, but he's been in this business a long time. He himself is trying to grow his own brand now because he's not attached to Collider or whoever anymore. So he's trying to build his own brand. He's got his own website, the InSnyder, again, not the Insider, the InSnyder, okay, behind a paywall. Nothing wrong with that, okay? He knows his stuff. He's got some stuff. You want to subscribe. It's no different than subscribing to the New York Times or like whatever the case is. In terms of principle is what I'm talking about. He's an independent contractor. He needs to make a living. Hey, no harm, no foul. I got a YouTube, membership here, right? I mean, people, it's not, that in and of itself doesn't mean that you're somehow disingenuous because you're having people pay for, extra stuff. But what I'm saying is that he's trying to grow this. So this, for me, this is something that it's just not juicy enough. To me, it's not juicy. It's interesting. It's a mental note for me as somebody who may want to report it and talk about it. But that in and of itself is not particularly interesting to go to town with. But it might be for Jeff, who's trying to build his brand. And so there's just not a lot there. There's not a lot there. And I read that this morning. And like I said, I was going to go live at 11 o'clock a.m. this morning. But when I read that, I thought, I have this feeling that there's going to be more information that's going to come out. And we were right. We were right. So let's go over to maybe not the Hollywood Reporter, maybe not Variety, maybe not Deadline, but certainly you could argue the Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, and Variety of the horror space. And that is no doubt Bloody Disgusting. And Bloody Disgusting has now chimed in and said, Crystal Lake, A24, has not pulled the plug on their Friday the 13th TV series exclusive. Now, this is an ongoing story. This is hot off the presses. This is ongoing. I'm doing this live stream as of right now, May the 7th, 1:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But there could be new information that comes out later that maybe I'll be jumping on later or tomorrow or who knows. Again, can you believe it's been 15 years? Yada, yada, yada. That's a lot of the filler. According to Bloody Disgusting, so right here, follow me, okay, right here. According to Bloody Disgusting sources, A24 has not killed off Crystal Lake at this time. We have confirmed the show is still happening. We have confirmed the show is still happening. But there is indeed some retooling of the project happening behind the scenes. We're digging for more info. Stay tuned. Peacock had given the project a straight-to-series order in 2022, with Crystal Lake being described as an expanded sequel to the original Friday the 13th franchise, featuring both Jason Voorhees and his mother, Pamela Voorhees. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so now they've chimed in. They are, again, for all intents and purposes, the Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, and Variety of the horror space, right? When Bloody Disgusting goes to bat and says it, that doesn't mean that they don't get things wrong. Everybody gets things wrong. But at the end of the day, if they say something, you can take that to the bank. They have confirmed that the series is still happening, right? Even Jeff Snyder says he didn't say that the series wasn't happening. He said it looked like A24 had pulled the plug, but it's unsure whether it's permanent or not, right? But again, understanding how to break it down and actually understand what you're reading and all the different variables at play would help to mitigate the absolute hysteria that you see across the board in the world of fandom. The problem is that, again, the average moviegoer fan is just a fan. And they have no idea how movies are made, how much things cost, what really goes on behind the scenes. And I'm not here to say I am the world's foremost expert. I'm not, but I've worked in the entertainment business a long time. I've studied film. I've made a couple movies myself. I'm pursuing a career in the filmmaking side of things now. And so I have a pretty good understanding of how things work. I'm still learning like everybody is. You're always learning in the entertainment industry because it's always evolving and changing. And I have people that I talk to and refer to who know a lot more than I do about a specific topic or a specific area, and I learn from them. And so, but I can tell you that the average movie fan really has no idea how any of this works. So I understand why at face value you read that and the average fan just goes, and, takes off and loses their mind or whatever the case is. But I would like to think that it's, I hope that these streams and these shows that I do somehow along the way resonate with somebody to say, hey, let's take a step back. What exactly are we reading? What exactly is being said? Because in this article here that was reported from, this here from Jeff Snyder, he's not really saying anything. I'm hearing. That's fine. He's not a nobody. Again, Jeff is not a nobody. I'm hearing that A24 has pulled the plug on Crystal Lake. Okay. Yep. Blah, 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 blah. Brian Fuller, duty executive producer, yada. It's unclear. It is unclear whether this is a permanent decision or a temporary one, as A24 had no comment. I mean, this is not what's being led, right? You look at the headline, and the headline says A24 reportedly pulls the plug on the Friday the 13th prequel series Crystal Lake. Now, that's not an disingenuous headline, but it certainly, its emphasis is more on pulls the plug rather than is this permanent or not, right? But again, we live in a world where people like to read headlines. That's really what they only care about. And because the vast majority of people don't understand how this works, and maybe they don't care, it's much more fun to, create drama and get caught up in the drama of it all. So I would just simply say to those who are losing their minds to take a step back, relax, and really do your best to really, like, first of all, don't just read headlines. Don't just read tweets. Don't just read, if somebody is retweeting something, don't just read their quoted tweet. Click on the article and read it. Be a critical thinker. Click on the article and read it, because the person who is retweeting may be melodramatic. Oh, can you believe this fucking shit? Right? And then you look and you go, oh my God, I'm going to retweet that too. Hey, Bob, can you? And then it just and really at the end of the day, we don't know what the fuck's going on. We have no idea. Apparently A24 is still on board, right? They still want to do it. They're just retooling. And part of that retooling, maybe nobody's talking about Brian Fuller's accusations. Whether they're true or not, who knows, right? Innocent until proven guilty, right? We don't know if they're true or not. But how quickly we forget that he's under a lot of accusations right now. And so that could be part of the retooling, right? They may be figuring out, what do we need to do here? Brian Fuller's thinking, that maybe they're looking for a new showrunner. Maybe they're trying to figure out, and with a new showrunner comes new ideas and maybe a bit of a retooling of the direction of the story. And who knows, right? I do agree that since the show has been announced, now obviously there was the writer's strike, there was the actor's strike last summer, which obviously would have delayed things. But I do agree that there's been very little movement on it, very little noise or news or information about it. So something is going on, right? There's something that's going on. So the fact that news has come out that they are retooling, tweaking, making some adjustments, don't worry, we're still that doesn't surprise me at all, because we've heard fuck all. Really, this thing should have been like, well, if it wasn't for the writers, if it wasn't for the strikes, it'd be in the can by now. But certainly you think that we'd have a little bit more information, a little bit more of social media awareness, a little more posts, maybe from Adrian King or whatever the case is. We've got fuck all, nothing. So obviously there's something going on behind the scenes. So the fact that they're retooling, making adjustments doesn't surprise me at all. Again, like I said, we have to, there's no evidence to suggest yet that Brian Fuller will be exiting. But maybe he will be exiting. I don't think he's exited already, right? Has he? Maybe he has. I'm not sure. I don't think he has though. So, but maybe that's something that could be on the horizon. So please, and again, I don't, if I come across as pretentious or condescending, I don't mean to. I'm not saying I'm the world's foremost expert. I just simply think it's great advice for everybody, myself included. And again, because I grew up in a media family, I learned this from a very young age. Again, not like my dad sat me down and taught me on a chalkboard and, and I don't mean that, but just living with my father, just growing up in a media family. When you grow up in the public eye to a certain degree, you learn a lot of things, and you learn a lot of things fairly quickly. And just my dad being who he was. And so I think it's really important that when information, especially information that is so nothing really in the big picture, it's interesting. A pretty reputable source, Jeff Snyder, right? Again, he's not a nobody, has come out and said, hey, I'm hearing this. That's interesting. For me, if I hear that, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to follow that in the back of my head. Because what he said there is not enough information for me to jump online and be like, what the fuck? But that's me. And again, I'm not talking about anybody personally who's done that. I'm just talking about in a general sense, right? You see from the forums and the group pages and people sharing stuff. I'm just talking about it in a general sense. I don't think this is something to get your knickers in a twist over. I really don't. Even without the clarification from Bloody Disgusting, I really don't think this is, because there's no evidence to suggest that it's canceled altogether. There's so many variables. It's interesting. But retooling sounds right. Sounds right to me. And so folks, again, it just, please read beyond the headlines and do your best to really, what is it I'm reading? What is the information that's there? What exactly is being said? And what could the possibilities be here that A24, because if you didn't know any better, you'd just think that A24 just decided not to do it. You know what? Fuck it. We're out. Fuck this. You know what I mean? By the reaction of some people, the anger and the vitriol, you'd think that they just, it's like they're doing it out of spite. Yeah. Hey, you know what we should do? We should just cancel this show. No, that doesn't happen in show business. There's always reasons for it. A lot of the times it's financial, but there's always reasons for backing out or retooling or restructuring. Maybe it won't end up being A24. Bloody Disgusting has said, hey, we can confirm that A24 has not, you know what I mean? But even if it wasn't, even if they did back out, maybe Peacock is like, okay, now they turn to Blumhouse, right? Or they turn to somebody else, right? To, kind of bring on board or whatever the case is. And so it's just, there's so little information here that, again, if this was me and I had received this information personally, I'm also not a Jeff Snyder who is in the scooping. I'm also not in the scooping business. But if I had received this and I knew that I was the only one, I wouldn't go to town with it. I wouldn't post about it. Not yet. I would go, oh, that's interesting. And I would wait. I would wait to know. I would ask my source, can you do a little bit more digging? Can you is there any, I would work it a bit more. I wouldn't just have it wouldn't just be something where my source just said, hey, I kind of, I heard that apparently A24 is kind of backed out of the Crystal Lake thing. It's uncertain if it's permanent or not, but that's what I'm hearing. I would go, oh, seriously? Interesting. Okay. I wouldn't post about that if it was me. But again, I'm not a scooper. I'm not Jeff Snyder. But that's just so, that's the beginning of something juicy, right? That's the beginning of something potentially juicy. Right? And so if it was me, I'd go, oh, okay, file that in the back of my head, you know what I mean? And go, and then I would continue to work the story, right? And I'm not saying that Jeff's not doing that, but I would continue to work it until either A24 is forced to respond, or I find out something that A24 feels like they need to get ahead of, because that's also the thing too, right? A lot of the time, studios and production companies, in show business, if something has leaked and something, whether that's information, whether it's a photo, a teaser, whatever it is, when something leaks prematurely, ahead of schedule, whether that's a scheduled release date of something or just information that a production company or a studio does not want out there yet, and they know that for whatever reason, it's gotten out there through the grapevine, it's somehow gotten out there, they will often they will say something. They will try to get ahead of it so they can control the narrative and control the news. That's incredibly important to them, right? I mean, this is show business. So that's very important to them. And so I would continue to work. If it was me, I continue to work the story. If I really cared and was passionate about that. Jeff doesn't really seem like he plays in the horror space. So whether he's really passionate about that scoop or not, I don't know. But if it was me, I would continue to nurture the story, continue to work it, figure out more, to the point where either I am concrete and I go and it forces A24 to then come out, or A24 gets wind of me going to town and they come out before me. But this in and of itself is not juicy to me, really. Like, I'm being honest with you. It really isn't. It may be for, these websites like, Movie Web and things like that. And again, it's not a personal thing. I'm not attacking anybody personally. I understand the business they're in. I totally get it. But I think a lot of the times these articles can rile fan bases up completely unnecessarily. There's just nothing here, and then look what happens. Bloody Disgusting comes out 6 hours, later, or I guess maybe 14 hours later since the actual but they come out and they're like, yeah, no, that's apparent. We can confirm that they have not, you know what I'm saying? Like, so, I mean, now that doesn't mean that things are not changing, because they even said there's a retooling happening. There's a retooling that's going on. But that's my point, right? Is that it gets fan bases and fans riled up unnecessarily. However, I get the game. I get it, right? When you run a website that is huge in the space like Movie Web or any of these websites, the game is, I mean, it's not that you deliberately want to deceive your audience. I'm not suggesting that that's what they're doing. I just mean that there is a game, right? It's a business for them, and they know that this is something that will get likes, will get clicks, will get views, will get engagement, and that's what they need, right? No matter how minor it is, they feel it's something to go to town with. I miss the days, and not that I've ever been a journalist, but I miss sort of my father's era where it was like, and that was a very different era, of course, but where like you worked stories, and I'm not saying that doesn't happen today. I'm not saying it doesn't, but this feels like the information that Jeff released, unless there's more behind his paywall that I'm unaware of, but that blurb on Movie Web, this blurb here, let me go to the other screen. This blurb right here. Oops. Ooh, there we go. This blurb right here, is interesting, but it feels like the beginning of a story that you'd want to work. And maybe he is working it. I don't know. But it just feels like the beginning of a story that I want to work. I want more information on this. You know what I mean? Like this doesn't get me riled up and what the fuck? It just kind of makes me go, oh, interesting. And so anyways, I don't want to beat a dead horse here. I'm pretty sure I've made my point. But when you go over to Bloody Disgusting, again, according to Bloody Disgusting sources, A24 has not killed off Crystal Lake at this time. We have confirmed, again, this is Bloody Disgusting. This is the Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, and Variety of the horror world. We have confirmed the show is still happening, but there is indeed some retooling of the project happening behind the scenes, which is part of the reason why it is probably taking so long to get things going. So anyways, I think I've made my point over the last half hour. I think, let's just take a step back. Let's just relax and see where this goes. And, if A24 backs out, they back out. But, maybe it's going to go to another production company. Maybe it's going to, who knows, right? But I just, it's, and again, I hope I haven't come across the wrong way to some people. I'm certainly not talking about anybody specific. I just think it's really important because it causes unnecessary stress for people. It causes unnecessary posts, unnecessary think pieces, all this stuff where it's like, let's just wait and see, let's just wait and see. That's how I feel. That's how I feel about it. We need to really learn to, go beyond the headlines, which most people don't. Most people don't. Let's be honest. Most people don't. Go beyond the headlines. And if you do go beyond the headline, reading the article from a less emotional place and just kind of really read, okay, what are the facts? What is actually being said? You know? And, but that's not what happens. That's not what happens because that's not the business. And I get it. I get it. The entertainment business and even politics and the media. I mean, let's be honest. Ever since the introduction of 24-hour cable news in the early 90s, you know, the world has been in the business of not covering news. They've been in the business of creating news. And so I get it. I understand it. I do. But yeah, let's just always keep that in the back of our minds, right? That to really kind of assess what is being said. Because there's a lot of variables there. Even from Jeff Snyder's post, if A24 backed out, that doesn't mean that the series is dead. You know, there's a lot of variables, and Brian Fuller may be one big variable. We have to forget he's got a lot of allegations against him. So who knows what's going on behind the scenes. All right, folks, let's jump over to the chat room and see what all of you are saying. I know some super chats, a couple super chats did come in, so let me get them. Happy Sanjo sends in $5. Thank you, Happy, and says, are you sure it's Snyder and not Schneider? Are you sure in Snyder and not Insider? The amount of repeating was going to give me a stroke. Yes, it is in Snyder. I'll do it again for you, Happy. It is in Snyder. No, I just see his website is Jeff Snyder, the insnyder.com, right? But a lot of people have been mistakenly quoting him from the Insider, but it's actually a play on his last name. Vince Cesario Jr., is that how you say that? Sends in $10. Thanks, buddy. Says, why do Cunningham and Miller refuse to meet and figure these things out, especially during this nostalgia-filled era? Seems plenty of money would be had by both if they had just settled their differences. Well, I'll say this. It's important to keep in mind, and again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I think this is an important part to always remember from a fan's perspective. And I speak generally. Right? I have to say that because obviously, it's not a hard, fast rule across the board. I do speak generally. But generally speaking, filmmakers and actors and creators generally do not share the same love or passion for the projects that the fans do. It's why the fans will know so much more about said project than often the creator or the actors do, because the fans live with it day in and day out. They buy the movies, they buy the merchandise, they go to the conventions, they watch shows like mine, they get involved on a very nerdy, sweaty, level. And I'm right there with you, right? I'm a sweaty Halloween nerd. So, But the creators, the directors, the producers, the actors, again, there's always exceptions. George Lucas probably he probably knows a thing or two about Star Wars. So there are exceptions, but Sean Cunningham doesn't have the same emotional attachment to Friday the 13th that you all do. He doesn't care. He only directed one movie. He came back to produce, I think, Jason Goes to Hell. He reaps the benefits, obviously, financially. But his sole purpose for creating Friday the 13th was to try to replicate the success of Halloween. His words, he said that. And so to him in the early 80s, this wasn't the Friday the 13th. It was just a fucking low-budget horror movie that he could hope he could make a quick buck on so he could go on and do other things. He's not even a horror director. He doesn't even like it when people consider him a horror. He hates it. He's very resentful for it. That doesn't mean that there aren't certain things he doesn't appreciate. But I think part of the reason, to answer your question, not the whole reason, but part of the reason is because he does not share that same nostalgic attachment. He doesn't see it in the same godlike manner that fans do. To him, it's just a fucking movie that he reaps the benefits from that he did, a long time ago. Victor Miller, probably a similar thing. And so they're operating on a different emotional and psychological level than most fans are, right? They're in a different headspace. They're in a different headspace. They're not thinking about it in the same ways. Everything the fans say is true. Yeah, but think about the money you're making. And, if the fans are happy, then you can put more out there and then you can make more money. And then all that's true. Everything the fans say, I was going to say whine about, but I don't think that's fair. Say and are passionate about and all, it's all true in terms of like, yeah, but you could do this and then you can make more money and then you could do, it's all true. It's not wrong. The fans are not wrong. Guys, just make up. Like, what are you doing? You're Sean Cunningham. You're Victor Miller. But they don't see themselves as Sean Cunningham and Victor Miller. As they don't. It's a completely different wavelength, a completely different mindset, a completely different thing. Does that mean they are completely void of appreciation? No, not at all. It doesn't mean that they are void of appreciation, but they don't have the same level and depth of emotional appreciation as the fans do. And therefore, when that happens, when you don't share the same level of appreciation and you are a filmmaker and you are looking at it from a business perspective, because this is show business, it can get dirty. And it can get a little cold, right? It's not as warm and fuzzy and as fan-friendly. It gets cold. And it's not that the fans are not right in principle about what they're saying, but they don't operate on that level. They're also older, right? There could be some resentment there that Sean Cunningham was hoping to have this flourishing filmmaking career, and the only fucking thing he's known for is Friday the 13th. Now, from a fan's perspective, yeah, but that's really cool. Dude, Friday the 13th, you are a legend. Dude, yeah, but he doesn't care. He doesn't care because when he was starting out, that's not his passion. His passion isn't Friday the 13th. His passion isn't Jason Voorhees. His dream was not to be a horror filmmaker. His dream was not to be stuck in one fucking franchise for 50 years, 40 years, 44 years, right? That wasn't his dream. That wasn't his passion. That wasn't what Sean Cunningham wanted to do. He just saw what Halloween did and thought, oh, let's do it. Kind of like what all these other horror independent directors are doing now with all the fucking Disney characters that are in the public domain. Everybody's getting in on it. Why? Money! Because of hey, look how well that movie did. I think maybe we could do our own little thing. You know what I'm saying? It's the same principle. Hey, that's easy. Hey, let's see if we can replicate that. Right? And so that wasn't his dream. And I don't think it was Victor Miller's dream either. Again, does that mean they are void of appreciation? No, it doesn't mean they are completely void of appreciation. It just means they don't see it the same way. They don't have the same connection emotionally. Because if they did, you'd have 5 Friday the 13th movies up on the screen, in the last 10 years, right? You would. But they didn't. And one of the biggest arguments, when they were going to town, they're fighting over the rights, they're doing this, they're fighting over this, they're fighting over that, they're fighting over this, right? The fans are all like, yeah, but what about us? What about the fans? They don't care. In a way, it's not that they don't care at all. They're just not thinking about it the same way. There's multi-million-dollar, this is a business. They're looking at it from that perspective. And Sean Cunningham never wanted to do this. So not to beat a dead horse, but I do think it's important that fans remember that, and it's hard for fans to remember that. Look at John Carpenter. Listen, as much as we love John Carpenter, okay, and as much as I love John Carpenter, and as much as you love John Carpenter, he's a miserable bastard when it comes to Halloween. He doesn't give a fuck. And yet we sit there when he shows up at a convention, he walks out, waves, sits there, some poor fan will stand up. They're all excited. They'll ask him a question. Hello, Mr. Carpenter. It's so nice to me. Oh my God, I just love your movies. I love everything about you. So wonderful. So I was just wondering, when you were directing Halloween and when you were there and, did you feel like, the stuff and the passion and the fan, oh, God bless the fan, they're there. And the fan, it's so awesome. It's so love it. You know what I mean? And we can all, only a fan, yeah, and they speak for what feels like half an hour, right? And they're like, and maybe the moderator's like trying to take the microphone away from them. I'm so sorry. I just have one more. They're so excited. And what does John Carpenter say? Because it makes me money. And that's fucking it. He says like one sentence. and we give him a pass because he's John Carpenter, and because he's a horror legend, and he's kind of there, and whatever the case is, and oh, that's just John. That's just John. Oh, that's just John. I get it, but there's truth to this. He doesn't care because John Carpenter never saw himself as the Halloween guy. Right? Now, is he appreciative of Halloween? Yes. Why? I open my hand and a check comes. I mean, when was the last time you heard John Carpenter say, well, you know what? I mean, it was the movie that put me on the map, and I just want to thank, I had done Assault on Precinct 13 and then this little low budget movie comes along and I wasn't thinking anything of it. And then I did it and it was huge and we didn't expect it to be huge, but it was so gigantic and it was huge. I'm just so appreciative of what that film did for me and my career. And then I did. He doesn't talk like that. He just goes, money. You know what I'm saying? And we all go, that's John, but there's truth to that. They're on a different level. They're not looking at it from the same perspective. It was like pulling teeth to get John to walk down the fucking street to the fucking Pasadena Convention Center to join Halloween 45. He didn't even want to go. And he lives in the area. It's just, again, I speak, obviously there's nuance here that I want people to, instill and remember. Of course, I'm not saying John is not appreciative of all, at all. I'm not saying he doesn't care at all. I just think it's important we remember the different levels and the disassociation between fandom and the people who make the product. We have to remember that. Michael Thorne sends in, wait, did I get all the super chats? I think I did. I think it was only a couple that came in, right? Let me just see here. Yeah. Michael Thorne sends in $9.99. Thank you, Michael. And says, we need to get back to the days where we didn't know anything about a film or TV show until we saw it. The cycle of wanting more news, but being upset at spoilers is childish and ridiculous. Michael, I agree with you in principle. And it would be nice to get back to the days, the 80s and the 90s when you did, unless you were subscribed to Fangoria or you were watching Entertainment Tonight, or you were dialed in certain areas, you just didn't know. You literally had no idea. And, the only time you ever knew that a movie was coming out, again, as if you were, dialed into maybe one of the entertainment shows, or you looked at the back of the newspaper and there are all the newspaper ads, right? Or, you saw the trailer on TV, or you saw it, the trailer in the movie theater or something. And unfortunately, those days are long gone. It's not going to happen because of social media, because of the internet, the ease of access to information, the hyperbole, and because of the way it's structured and designed, right, to elicit emotional responses. That is the design of social media. It's designed to elicit emotional responses. And so, those days are gone, unfortunately. The only thing we can do is, and I'm not a big enough channel to have any impact, but, whenever I can, I'm going to talk about this as passionately as I can, because I do think it's important stuff to remember, to really, to go beyond the headlines and to read the articles and to assess whether or not this is something to get really crazy emotionally about. Do I want to retweet? Do I want to, requote tweet this and show my anger? Or is this something that maybe there's still more information that's going to come out? Because I guarantee you there's probably a lot of people out there that retweeted the news from last night that are now going, because of Bloody Disgusting's article. And so I think it's important to just keep that in mind, but again, because of the business that online space is, if you're not first, you're last, and it's tough. I feel for certain websites and creators out there that really do play in the space of needing to get to information first. I'm not a movie reviewer, so thankfully I don't have that, not only desire, but have that expectation, right? I could have jumped online and talked about this tomorrow or the next day, right? There's no expectation that I need to jump on immediately right now. I just did it today because I had time this afternoon. I'm going to go for a run after this. And then Bruce is coming over because, we're working on Billy too. So I had a bit of time and I thought, what, why not do it now? Especially since the Bloody Disgusting article came out. I thought this is a good time to do that. But I feel for a lot of channels out there, and there's a boatload of channels out there that are in that space, that movie news reviewing space that they need to, yeah, you know what I mean? And I think oh man, my hat goes off to them. I don't know how you do it. For me, I think it would be too stressful. So that's why I kind of just stick to punditry, or commentary, like talk radio. But yeah, it is what it is, Michael. I agree with you. I do, but I don't think it's going to. I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. Unfortunately. RJ Skorensky says John Carpenter is a fantastic writer, but he sounds like a greedy sob in real life, and this new Halloween trilogy proves it. He's a fantastic writer. I wouldn't necessarily agree that he's a fantastic writer. I don't think he's a bad writer. He hates writing. He said outright, he says, the one process of filmmaking he absolutely loathes is writing. So I don't think he's a bad writer, but I wouldn't necessarily say I haven't seen anything from anything he's written that is like, great. But John Carpenter he's a horror legend. He is incredibly influential. There's no denying that. There's no taking away from that. But I always feel bad. And I think Carpenter could be nicer. I think, you're getting a guarantee, because let's be honest. He was paid to show up to the convention, right? Because he didn't sign any autographs. He was paid he always gets paid when he shows up to places. There's always a guarantee. He ain't doing anything for free. So he was paid a pretty penny to be at the Halloween convention in Pasadena. Absolutely. I don't know, maybe 25,000 maybe. I don't know, but it was probably something like that. 20,000, 25,000, who knows? Somewhere probably in that ballpark. And he's there for what? An hour and a half. He can't pretend to enjoy himself. Do you know what I mean? Especially when you've got all these fans but I think I think there is a little bit of, there is that, because he tends to, I've noticed that Carpenter tends to perk up a little bit and brighten up a little bit and get a little less grumpy. Not totally, but a little less grumpy when he's talking about his other films, right? So like They Live or The Thing, or I don't know, maybe choose one that he probably hardly ever talks about, like Village of the Damned, or something. He tends to kind of perk up a little bit, and his sentences go from 5-word answers to 15-word answers. He perks up a little bit. But I'll be honest, I think he's just fucking sick of Halloween. I think he is. And it's not that he's not appreciative of the success at all, because most of his residuals probably do come from Halloween. But I think he's got his, look, he's an outspoken guy. He's got his views of Hollywood and the studio system. He's been met with a lot of shit through his career. And again, it's not that he's not appreciative of at all of Halloween, but I think he shares the same sort of low, what is it? Low shade resentment. I do think it's there, because never in a million years did he think that, nobody gets into making movies. It would be like, and I'll be honest with you, it would be like, the Billy films, let's say, right? Let's say they were like, studio released films. So they actually seek distribution. They reached, millions of people. It would be like me for the rest of my life. That's all anybody ever wanted to talk about. I gotta be honest, I'd be fucking sick of it too. I would, right? Especially when I've gone on and done other things I'm proud of, some successes, some failures, because that's, it's the nature of the business, right? And no, anybody just wants to talk about, it's me, Billy, right? And so, now I'm not a curmudgeon asshole. So not that John Carpenter is completely, but I would probably be, I'd probably be a lot nicer, and, but I can intellectualize and I can understand if that is there, even subconsciously with these directors, right? You get it, right? It's like, oh God, hey, I have done other things, Now, mind you, when he's at a Halloween convention, that's a bit different because it's Halloween. So when you're at a Halloween convention, of course, people are going to want to talk about Halloween because you're at a Halloween convention. So if he's making the choice, see, and this is what I don't understand. If you're making the choice to get paid, I got paid to walk down the fucking street, You know, I mean, you don't even have to shower, for God's sakes. You don't have to get on a plane. You don't have to, you just walk down I don't know if he literally can walk down the street, but he certainly lives in the neighborhood or in the area. Just, you know, you show up for an hour, you answer some questions, you're getting paid. You can't do that without going, next question. I got paid because of money. It's like, I mean, and there's part of him that maybe thinks he's being funny, and he is. But because John Carpenter is the god of Halloween that we put him on, fans all go, oh, that's John. And it's like, well, yeah, but he doesn't need to be a dick either. You know what I mean? And he could be a little warmer. He could be a little warmer, a little more cordial, right? But yeah, no, it doesn't surprise me. But you know, I can intellectualize and say that I can understand it, that I would probably feel the same way. I would handle it a lot different, but I could understand. Right? I could understand, you know, unless I was at like a, you know, a Billy convention, Billy or a Black Christmas convention, right? If I'm at a Black, you know, if those films were huge studio released movies and I'm at a Black Christmas convention and that's all anybody ever wanted to talk about, well, duh, right? But if I had the career Carpenter did and I'm at a horror convention or, you know, I'm doing an interview and all anybody wants to talk about is Halloween, I can understand. Now he's probably like, fuck. There's a lot of resentment there. I think Carpenter probably wishes he had a more successful career. I think he wishes his career went further, maybe even within the studio system. There's probably a lot of things that Carpenter feels. He gives you the impression he doesn't give a fuck, but nobody gets into this business and doesn't give a fuck. He cared. He had a string of really good movies, a string of not so good movies, and he never quite was able to make his mark on the studio system. And so, you know, for better or worse, he's, you know, there's probably a lot of things. If you spoke to John, you know, like you'll never get this out of him in an interview because it would be too much, you know, it's too personal. But if, you know, his best friend, his closest friends, if you were to have a heart to heart over a beer, there's probably a lot of things that he'd say that would make you go, I get it now. You know, I get it. Right. So, but yeah, he's a character. He's a character for sure. He definitely is. Let me see here. We've only been going an hour. Feels like I've been going longer for some reason. Alley Girl says, especially when people are spending their hard-earned money, he should be a little more earnest in his responses. I agree. Again, it doesn't, you know, yes, you're answering the same things over and over again. And I do that here on this channel, you know, and, you know, I don't get really flack for it anymore, but I remember when I first kind of came onto the scene, I used to get accused of repeating myself a lot. Like, Dave, you keep repeating yourself. And, you know, it came to a point where I had to actually say, kind of on a show, I said, look, I know I'm repeating myself. I'm not losing my mind, but just because you watch me every single show doesn't mean everybody does. And clearly not everybody does, because the view counts will differ. The live shows will differ in streams because not everybody is interested in what I'm talking about. Right. So, it's always, just because it may be the 458th time you've heard me say something, there's somebody in the chat or somebody who's watching after the fact, even more than quite a few people, that it's their first time hearing me say this, right? You know what I mean? Or their first time hearing me say whatever it is. So I'm not repeating myself for, to be arrogant or to gloat or, you know, if I think something is important and has an important point, and I know that I will draw from my experience, or I will draw from something I've said before to help hammer a point home. That's it. I know when I've repeated myself. I know how much I talk about Halloween on this channel, you know, but to Alla Girl's point, right? Yeah. You know, he could be more cordial. He doesn't have to go like, you know, into 9-paragraph answers, but he always comes across, especially when he's talking Halloween, that he just would rather be somewhere else. And it's true. He's not, he doesn't care. He doesn't care. Like, he doesn't say that. He doesn't get on stage and say, listen, I'd rather be at home fucking playing Xbox and playing, you know, tiddlywinks with my ass cheeks. So let's just fucking get this done. He doesn't say that, but he doesn't have to. His body language, his responses, and he doesn't care. He doesn't care. And it's unfortunate because the fans are so excited to see him. And, you know, something that is important to remember that as, you know, when you're doing conventions, not that I've done conventions. I've done one convention for Dylan's New Nightmare. But no matter how, you know, exhausting the questions may be, no matter how exhausting the person or the group may be, no matter how exhausted you may be, whatever the case is, it's not for you. It's not your experience. It's for them. It's for the customer. It's for the fan. No matter how tired you may be, no matter how exhausted you may be, if you don't want to be there, don't be there. But it's not just about making money, right? It's about delivering something to the fan experience. You want to do your best to deliver something really positive for that fan. So no matter how tired you may be, no matter what's going on in your personal life, in that 3-minute exchange you have with that fan takes that for the rest of their life. You'll forget about them. You'll forget their name. You'll forget what they look like. You'll forget about them 5 hours after it's over. But they will take that experience for the rest of their life. And they will always remember that one time that I met John Carpenter. Oh my God, it was amazing. You know what I'm saying? And I always feel that, you know, if I was ever doing conventions on a regular basis, I mean, it's in my innate personality anyway, but that's what you have to remember. It's for them. It's for them. You know, it's not for you. It's not for you. It's for them. And so, but unfortunately, John Carpenter is in a position where he doesn't have to give a fuck about that. He doesn't care. He's made his money. He's not like, you know, rich beyond belief, but he's well off, and he's made his money, and he's old and he's disgruntled and he doesn't care. And he doesn't care that we don't care. Or he doesn't care that he doesn't care. He doesn't care. He has fuck you money. He has I don't give a fuck money. It's amazing. Frank Riker. Hey, what's going on, Frank? Hope you're feeling better, my man. Hope you're feeling better. Great to see a very generous super chat from Frank Riker. Amazing. Frank says, Dave's got to learn that we are only here to have him not tell us the truth or give us his opinions, but to love what we love and hate what we hate until he falls in line. Yes, hashtag boycott McRae. I'm going to give that a like myself. Hashtag boycott McRae. I could not agree with you more. I hope this catches on. Hashtag boycott McRae. Listen, for those of you that are just tuning in, because I did notice we jumped up to 141 viewers. Feel free to go back and watch the stream, sort of, because I take the first half of the stream to talk about and talk about the topic at hand. So feel free to do that if you want to do that, or watch after the fact as well. You can always do that too. But thank you, Frank, for the very generous super chat, man. You didn't have to do that. Thank you. Appreciate that. Roberto Torres sends in $4.99. Thank you, Roberto. Says, but Dave, I was watching the Sweaty Nerdy ranking and just noticed you went live. All love. You should rank the Halloween themes next. Oh, I don't know, man. Maybe, because that would only be like, what? All Halloween themes or the main theme? Like, dun, 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 dun. That? Because that would only be like, what? 12 movies or whatever. If I had to rank like every piece of music, I don't know, man. It's a lot. I mean, yesterday I had a lot of fun, but it's a lot because I was ranking each character from each of the big 3 movies. That's 33. I spent an hour. Of course, I know people love it. And it was fun, though. It was fun. I enjoyed it. Let me see here. Did I get all the super chats? I think I did. I got Michael Thorne. I got that one. Hang on. I just want to make sure I got them all. Yes, it looks like I have. It looks like I did. Looks like I did. John Hahn, I think that's how you, Johan, I think is how you say that, says, hey, Dave, I recently discovered The Back Rooms. Any thoughts on A24 making a Backrooms movie with Kane Parsons? I'm not familiar with The Back Rooms. So unfortunately, I can't really answer your question to any sort of satisfactory degree. I'm not entirely sure. I'll have to, maybe I am familiar with it when I, see the cover. Oh yeah. But just off the top of my head, I'm not exactly sure, Joe. The Back Rooms. I like the title though, The Back Rooms. I'll have to take a look. Take a look. RJ Skorensky says, oh man, how's Billy 2 going, Dave? It is going well. It's in post-production. Things are looking good. The picture is being assembled. The sound design is being done. And then at some point this summer, it will be shifted over to the department for color correction, color grading, color timing, all that kind of stuff. It's looking really good. We're very happy with it. Obviously the marketing for Billy 2 will start to ramp up over the next few months, obviously, because we're leading to an October 11th release. October 11th. There's still a lot of people out there that don't know that for some reason. I'm not sure why. But October 11th is not new. I did make a post on social media that we are releasing it on October 11th the other day. Some people felt that was new information. I mentioned that we were going to release it on October 11th last August. And then if you watch the teaser trailer, at the end of the teaser, it says October 11th, 2024. So the reason for that is because October 11th is the 50th anniversary of the original Black Christmas. When it was first released here in Canada in 1974, it was released on Friday, October 11th, 1974. So we want to release It's Me Billy Chapter 2 on Friday, October 11th, 2024 to coincide with the 50th anniversary of the original Black Christmas. I know that Terrifier 3 is releasing that day. Those bastards. They were originally going to release 2 weeks later, but they have pushed their movie up to October 11th. Obviously, our movie is not a theatrical release, so there's no competition really there. But I'll take a page out of the marketing for what was the movie now? Was it for Blair Witch? No, it was something in 1999. Or maybe, no, it was 97. It was something in 97. I can't remember now, but it was, if you only see one slasher movie, see this. But if you see two slasher movies, see Austin, or if you see two movies, see Austin Powers whatever it was great marketing. It was great marketing because the marketing for Austin Powers leaned heavily into, if you only see one movie this summer, see. And it was the competition. And then they said, if you see two movies this summer, see Austin Powers. It was so great. Obviously the Terrifier 3 is going to dominate the headlines and dominate sort of the news cycle that weekend. But we're not going to change ours because, again, we're not a theatrical release. And there is a specific reason why we're releasing it on October 11th, despite the quips and the jokes at my expense that I have received from people who don't know that. Yes, it's because Friday, October 11th, 1974 was when Black Christmas was released in Canada, because it's a Canadian movie, for those of you that may not know. It was released in the US in December, but it was first released here in Canada on October 11th, the same day that the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre was released, actually. So it's fitting. It makes sense for us. So I know that the Terrifier 3 buzz will be all hot on that day and that weekend, but hey, our movie's free. So there's no excuse, ladies and gentlemen. There's no excuse. So that Friday and that weekend, we want all of you out there to tear up those views for It's Me Billy Chapter 2. We'd really, really appreciate it, of course. And it's going well. It's in post, and you will begin to see a lot more marketing for it as the weeks and months here roll on. We're very excited to finally get it out there. Aaron Click says, Dave, is there a particular scene in Chapter 2 you're especially excited about? No spoilers, obviously. Yeah, well, there's a few. I think there's a wonderful scene between Lynn and Glenn Michael Grant, who plays Detective Mike Henney. Wonderful scene. And of course they're, top performers and the performances are great and it's just a great scene. So that one I'm excited about. There's a few in there that I think will play well with fans, and we're probably about halfway through putting it together, and it's looking and sounding just as cinematic as the first one, maybe even a little bit more so, because obviously now we're building to the climax. So it will, when it's released, it will be, top quality. And we're very excited about it. So yeah, Friday, October 11th, 2024, you can go watch Terrifier and then come home and watch It's Me Billy Chapter 2, or watch It's Me Billy Chapter 2 and then go watch Terrifier. Double bill, man. 2 Christmas movies at Halloween time. Come on. You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. And one's free, by the way. One's free. Aaron Click says The Spy Who Shagged Me. Okay, so maybe, was it for the Blair Witch then? Maybe it was, if you only see one movie this summer, see the Blair Witch Project. But if you see 2 movies this summer, see Austin Powers. It was something like that, the marketing from Austin Powers. And it was, they knew that Blair Witch was obviously had all the hype and, and it was such good marketing. It was such good marketing. I wouldn't do that for us because I don't want to step on the toes. But certainly I'm not going to move the film because there's a very specific reason why. And there's no reason why you can't watch both. And like I said, one's free. Just saying. Gary sends in £5. Thanks, Gary. Says, I love the movies John gave us, but I saw him go off when a guy asked him about Michael's middle name, and I'm not going to say what I thought he was. So there was a guy that, at a convention, there was a guy that asked John Carpenter what Michael's middle name was. Because in one of the movies, it's Aubrey, isn't it? Or Audrey? Audrey, I think. And John gave him a nasty response or whatever. That's kind of weird. I don't know the scenario or the situation you're talking about, so I'm not familiar with it. But if that's true, that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. Gary follows up with £10. Thanks, Gary. Says, he's finishing this. But I thought, how's this guy the H1? Actor said was sweet, but at least he's not. Sean S. Cunningham, Mike from We Watched a Movie, said he hates his Friday creation. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know. Obviously, I've never met Sean Cunningham. I've seen interviews with him, but, not to repeat myself here, but just kind of the Cliff Notes version. It's like what I said earlier in the show. Sean Cunningham, look, is there a part of Sean that appreciates what Friday the 13th has done for him? Of course. But there are levels to these things, right? And Cunningham, is there resentment there? There probably is. Because like I said, now that doesn't mean that gives him the right to be nasty to fans. That doesn't mean that gives him the right to be nasty to, to fans in person. If somebody comes up to, look, if a fan comes up to him while he's fucking taking a shit and, asking him for a selfie, yeah, okay, I get it. But I just mean at a convention, right? Where that's where it's supposed to be. It gives no actor, no director, no producer, no filmmaker, nobody the right to be a fucking dick. When you are taking money from somebody and you're signing an autograph, it doesn't it doesn't ruin your day to exchange a couple of pleasantries, takes 5 minutes and you're done. Do you know what I'm saying? So that doesn't give him the right to be a dick. But it doesn't mean that he doesn't have it doesn't mean that he has to be appreciative and like it to the same degree as fans do, because his experience with Friday the 13th is through a completely different lens. It's not through the fandom lens. He sees Friday the 13th as a completely different beast, a completely different thing, right? It doesn't mean that he can't intellectualize and understand, because he's a fan of certain things himself, right? But he doesn't have the same emotional response or connection to Friday the 13th that you all do. He just doesn't have it. So he just doesn't care. He just doesn't care. Now, that doesn't mean he has to be a dick about it, right? If he is being a dick, that doesn't mean that. But he doesn't have the same, it's not his experience. And that's really important. And that's why it can be so disheartening for fans when they're talking to actors or they're talking to filmmakers and they've waited their whole life to ask them this question. And the response they get is, yeah, I was there, but, we had a good time. And it was, it was a lot of fun. God, it was so long ago, wasn't it, Bob? Yeah, it really was. I don't really remember much. But I just remember it being a lot of fun. Now, there's nothing wrong with that answer in and of itself. But if the person asking it has been waiting their whole life and they're finally there and they're like, hello, Mr. So-and-so. I just want to know, you know what I'm saying? And then it kind of feels really kind of anticlimactic, right? You know what I mean? And so, but as long as they're cordial, they're polite, it is what it is. It is what it is. But yeah, more fans have to, and listen, some filmmakers, some actors have way better bedside manners than others, right? It's like doctors, right? Some doctors, you're like, oh man, I fucking love this doctor. They make me feel safe. They make me feel secure. They make me feel they know what the fuck's going on. They make me feel that I'm going to be okay. Don't worry, we're going to do that. It's good. Even in areas of crisis, they have terrific bedside manners. They're terrific. Right? They make you feel confident in the knowledge that they're speaking, in them as a professional. They're just amazing. Whether it's your GP, a dentist, a specialist, whatever it is, right? And then there's some doctors. I have a doctor right now, not my GP, but there's a specialist I have that can't say have the best. Doesn't have. They don't have the best bedside manners, and there's just some people that are like that, right? But no matter what kind of fucking day you're having, you're in a position dealing with a patient. You know what I'm saying? But everybody's human. But there are some directors, filmmakers, and actors out there that have terrific bedside manners. Terrific. You know what I'm saying? And they make, even if they're having the shittiest day of all time, the dog shittiest day of all time, they make you feel like you are the most important person in the world. You know what I'm saying? And, I think if I ever did conventions on a regular basis, I'd like to think that I would be like that. Because I think in a lot of ways I take after my dad. And one of the things that I learned, and I always knew this about my dad, but I certainly knew it after he passed away because of everybody that was coming forward and the media and all that kind of stuff. And, one of the things that was a common thread with my dad is that he was very inquisitive, which, I mean, you have to be if you're a journalist, but also that he can make you feel like you're the only person in the room. Even if you're in a room with 500 other people, having that one-on-one conversation, he really makes you feel like and that's not disingenuous. It's not like he's pretending, he's really, it's just his natural way, of being. It's what made him a good journalist. So I would like to think that if I ever wound up in a position where I was meeting a lot of people and things like that, that I would be the same way. 'Cause, people who are meeting a lot of people who are coming up to meet you is what I mean. It's a talent, man. Not everybody has it. And then you get the disgruntled, I've been in this business a long time and all these disgruntled people and they're just dicks. They're just dicks. They're just dicks. And, fans let them get away with it because of who they are. I can tell you right now, if anybody was ever a dick to me, like a dick. I don't mean somebody that's just kind of, not very conversational. I mean like a fucking dick, like an actual dick. I would have no issues. No issue. Now, I mean like an actual, I don't mean John Carpenter doing his, 'cause I got paid. I don't mean that kind of stuff. I mean like if I was ever in a position where I was like, oh, hey, and I'm paying them money for an autograph or something, and they're like, ah, fuck. What the fuck do you want? Yeah, no, look, I just want to go home. Like, I just want to, that's unlikely to happen. But I mean, to the extreme like that, right? I would have no issues if that was fucking John Carpenter or Harrison Ford, or I'd have no issues going, yeah, you're a fucking dick. So, and taking that piece of paper and going and ripping up the photo, getting them to sign it and then ripping it up in front of them and, whatever. I'd have no issues. No issues doing that. But again, that's a very extreme example. That's unlikely to happen. Although I'm sure there's a lot of people. I don't really go to conventions. I've only been to a few in my life. I know there are definite convention goers out there that go to a lot of them. That might be an interesting show to hear horror. Well, having talked to Sean Clark a lot, I have heard some pretty horrific convention stories that I can't repeat. But I'd be very curious to know if somebody's ever had a real bad, I don't mean somebody that's just not as nice as you thought they would be. I don't mean that. That's different. Walking up to somebody, to an actor or a director or whoever who you hope is going to go, hey man, what's going on? Yeah, nice to meet you. Yeah, how you doing? Yeah. Oh, thanks so much. I don't mean somebody who just doesn't do that. I mean like an actual dick. Like somebody who's just fuck. I'd be curious to know. Simon Mills. Hey, what's going on? Simon Mills, one of our great members here, sends in a member chat, says, I met William. Oh yeah, William Shatner. as soon as I saw the name, I know Bill Shatner has been known to be a bit condescending and dickish. I haven't even read your thing yet. I met William Shatner and he was great with me. Okay, great. Friendly and chatted with me despite stories about him. Maybe John and Sean, you got to catch on a good day, but fans deserve a good response no matter what. It's true. Yeah, no, William Shatner is sort of the antithesis of what you think of when you think of, Canadian, because he's Canadian, right? And he's born in Montreal, I believe. And obviously one of the stereotypes for us Canadians is that we're so nice and we're friendly. And William Shatner, I've not met William Shatner, but I've been on the red carpet with William Shatner. My very first nomination for a Voice Arts Award in 2015, we went down and we went all out because it was my first year being nominated. Now, I've been nominated 3 years since, and we didn't go quite all out in the, you know what I mean? Because it can be quite expensive when you go all out, right? So we're staying at the fancy hotels in the fancy room with the fancy car and the drivers. We got picked up at the airport, had a sign that said, McRae, and we went all out. Like, why not, right? It was really fun. And it was the first year it was the only year, and I don't say this as any disrespect to the winner. The other 3 years I was nominated. So I was, the first year was Best National Television Promo. Second year was Best National Television Promo. Again, I believe. Third year was Best National Television Promo Campaign. So that just means like it's a bunch of promos. And then the fourth year was for Outstanding Body of Work. So my entire body of work I was nominated for, which is amazing. It's amazing. The first year when they announced the winner, no disrespect to the winner, great. But that first year, because they play everybody's on, I mean, it's like the Oscars, right? They play everybody's thing on the screen and then, the first year in 2015 was the only year where I remember thinking, I should have won. The other 3 years, I totally could have won. But the other 3 years, I was like, yeah, no, that makes sense. Like that's really good. Like that was really good. Totally makes sense. It could go either way. I'm totally cool with that. You know what I mean? But that first year, I remember feeling that my promo was so strong, above everybody else's. But I didn't win. But I'm a 4-time nominee, which is pretty cool. But anyway, so that first year, William Shatner was being presented with a Icon Award. And so he was on the red carpet and he was a bit down from me. I wasn't right beside him, but he was like a bit down from me. And obviously a lot of the cameras were very focused on William Shatner because it's like, who the hell am I? And by the way, walking red carpets, I've done it 4 times now. And I can tell you walking red carpets there's an art to it. There's an art to it. It can be intimidating. It can be tricky because you got to figure out where to look and people are calling your name and cameras and shit like that. It can be tricky. There is a definite art to it. I have a far greater appreciation for people that walk red carpets than I think I ever have before. Now, there's some people that walk and that don't give a fuck. But it was interesting. It was very interesting. The whole thing was a very interesting experience. But anyway, I digress. But that's my William Shatner story. That's as close as I've ever gotten to William Shatner. But it's funny because you're right. He's got a reputation of being a real dick, and completely unnecessarily so. But what do we do? Oh, that's just Bill. He needs somebody to be like, Bill, Bill, you're just maybe some people have like, Bill, you're a fucking dick, especially now. You know what I mean? Like, I tell you, man, if I was and he was just being an outright dick to me, I'd have no issue saying it to him. It's like, you're a fucking dick. Stop being a fucking dick. There's no reason for you to be a dick. I don't care if you're 95 and you're old and this is just no. Age does not give you the right to be the disgruntled, stereotypical old man, get off my lawn when there's no reason for it. That's just me. I've seen shit. I've been through shit. I'm William Shatner. Don't be a dick. If you don't want to be there, if being there makes you a dick, then don't be there. Don't be there. I'm just saying. I don't care who you are, man. I don't care who you are. Now, maybe it's because, like I said, I've worked in the entertainment business a long time and I've met a lot of different people who are varying degrees of stardom. And so I have a bit of a different perspective on kind of, the business, I guess. But I don't care who you are. We're all human beings. And unless somebody is being an absolute fucking dick to you, there's no reason to be a dick to somebody. There's just saying, hey, you know what? I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. I'm a little busy at the moment. Do you mind if I just go up? You can, usher somebody along who's bothering you in a cordial way too, right? You can totally do it. You don't have to be a dick about it. But hey, it's what happens. It's what happens sometimes. All right, we'll go another 5 minutes and then I have to skedaddle because I got to go for my run. This has been a good show today. I think it's been a good show. Good show. Have I missed any super chats? Let me just see. Just want to make sure I'm not missing any super chats, ladies and germs. Just want to make sure. Simon Mills was a member chat, and then Gary sent in 15 pounds between the two. Yep. No, got it. All right. Let me see. Let me scroll down here. Holly Klein, great to see you back, Holly. Davey Deathray, great to see you here, Davey. Oliver Mercer says, I've seen William do all of these alien documentaries nowadays that are not bad. Look, William Shatner is great. I love William Shatner. He's great in most movies he's in. He's funny. He's a great host for, a documentary or a great narrator or, whatever the case is. No, he's great. He's just known to be a dick. And it's almost become kind of just part of his personality, like he gets off on it. Like he's just, his ego is so gigantic that that just becomes him. And I'm sorry, man. I just don't think there's any, unless there's a specific reason to lose it on somebody. I don't give a shit who you are. I really don't. I really don't care who you are. And, yeah. Peter Juan sends in a member chat. Thank you, Peter. And says, hi, Dave. Any chance you can do another show on cinematic language? The last one you did was fascinating, and it was cool to see your thought process behind it. Yeah, maybe. Sure, yeah. I haven't done one in a while. Maybe when Billy 2 comes out, maybe I'll use that as sort of the template, because it's always fun to sort of talk about my film and promote it in that way. But I'm not against it. I know there are shows that don't really draw that well because, we're diving into the nitty gritty and we're analyzing and the psychology and the symbolism and the layers and all that kind of stuff. And that, to the average movie fan, I'm so thankful that you care about that kind of stuff. That's amazing. That's awesome. But to the average movie fan, they don't really care about that. It's a little too kind of deep for them, I guess. But I love that kind of stuff. So yes, the short answer is yes, I totally would be open to doing it again. I would just have to have the right movie and the right sort of content to be able to inspire me to do it. Let me see. Andrew Rollinson says, how far are you going today, Dave? 5K, 10K? I usually jog between 5 and 10. So it's usually, lately I've been doing about 6.5. Sometimes I'll go 7. Sometimes I'll go 8. Sometimes it's 5. It all depends on how my body's feeling. I'm 45 now. Well, not yet. 45 in a couple of weeks. So it all depends on how my body's feeling. There's some days I'm out there where I'm like, oh fuck, I'm breezing this, right? And then there are some days where I'm like, yeah, I'll make this 5, But the important thing is I'm out there and I'm doing it. And I try to do it at least 2 to 3 times a week. I've been jogging since I was 16 years old. And so that's 29 years ago. And I've never ran a marathon. I've never ran a race. I've never ran a half marathon. I've never actually ran competitively. But when I think about all the running I've done over the last 29 years, I have probably ran across Canada like 5 times. Do you know what I mean? Like I've ran thousands of kilometers in 29 years. Not in one shot, of course, but when, if I was to like I was running in high school, You know, I was running in college. You know, I was running like, oh my God, like I've done so much running in my life and I enjoy it. I enjoy it. You know, it is getting a little harder as I get older in terms of just the body. But I also do a lot of sitting too, right? I'm here and I'm working on stuff and I'm doing the show and I'm working on, you know, Billy and, you know, so there's a lot of like, I have to make sure I stretch and things like that. And you're getting older and, you know, I mean, I'm not old, but I'm not young anymore in terms of, you know, like I'm in my 20s. I'm almost 45. I'm approaching middle age. I'm 5 years away from 50, you know? So it's good that I do this though. Because, you know, it keeps you, you know, I'm not in the shape I was when I was in high school. I was cut with a 6-pack and pecs and the whole thing. So I don't really have a 6-pack anymore, but I'm still the same weight I was. So I'm like 155 pounds, I guess. So I'm still slim. I'm just not, you know, as I want to say jacked. I don't think I was ever jacked, but I certainly was cut. I was in great shape. But, you know, you were also 17 and it was a lot easier and you were playing ice hockey and you were running and, you know, the only responsibilities you had was who was the hottest girl in school and did you do your homework? You know what I mean? So it was very easy to, you know, now it's a bit harder as we get older, but yeah, I enjoy it. And I think it is even more important now than even when I was younger. So hopefully I can live a long life. You know, my dad died when he was 69 and my mom died when she was 67. So it would be nice for me to live into my 70s, 80s. I'd love to make it to 80. I always had this thing in my head when I was a young kid. I always thought, you know what? I'm going to live to 98. And when I get to 98, I'm going to check out. It's possible. I mean, I do have extended family that has lived long, like my great aunt. So my mom's, my grandmother on my mom's side, her sisters, right? So my 2 great aunts who are now dead, they lived to like 98 and 95, but my own grandmother only lived to 58. So it's like weird, you know what I mean? But then my great grandmother lived to 87, you know? And then my grandmother on my dad's side, my dad's mom lived to like 84 or something, you know? So who knows? I'm going for 98, man. I always said that as a kid. I don't know why. I'm going to live to 98 and then I'm going to check out. I don't know why. Well, if I live to 98, most everybody I love will probably be gone. So, okay, I'm out, you know. Go to 98, baby. We got to believe. I'm going to live to 98. Going to live to 98. It's fun. It's fun. I hope I do. You know, I'm not ready to check out yet. Holly Girl says, you don't look anywhere close to 45. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Wait till you see me in person. I don't know. Got gray here, a bit of gray in the hair. You know, if I don't get sleep, I can look 45. But I appreciate that. I appreciate that. But you know what? I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't do drugs, right? And I never have. So I don't do anything that would, you know, that's not good for your skin or, you know, things like that. So, you know, yeah, I think, do I look 45? Probably not. Probably not. You know, maybe I look late 30s. I'm not sure. But yeah, 45. 40 fucking 5. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. Holly Klein says, going to be 40 this year and just bending down to get the clothes out of the dryer is exhausting now. Kudos to you. I love it. I love it. I have this image. Yeah. Well, hey, you know what? Just some I don't do yoga, but just some basic stretching. There's some times where I'll do some stretching. I'll be like doing the stretching, you know, the hamstrings, the back and everything, feeling great, you know, and for whatever reason, I'm so like, I'll do it. And then afterwards, I'm like dead tired. I'm so tired. I'm like lying on the ground. I'm like, and I just fall asleep. I literally have fallen asleep just lying on the ground after like an epic stretch, you know, but I think it's just because it's my body's like, what the hell is happening? What are you doing? My body's exhausted from stretching. It's wild. It's wild. It's wild. Joe Hahn says, a bit of gray in the hair. We've never even seen your hair, Dave. You have. There are some photos of me with, I do have hair. I am not bald, contrary to popular belief. I do have hair. I just am a hat guy. I always like to wear hats. If I do go bald, it'll probably be back here a little bit because that's where my dad went bald. I don't think I'm going bald back there yet. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. But that's probably where I will go bald if I do, because that's where my dad went bald. But I do have hair. I do have hair, but I see the gray in it now. So, but my dad never went, like he died when he was 69, so he was almost 70. he didn't have like gray, like he had the salt and pepper hair. So if anything, I'll get salt and pepper hair, which is very distinguished. Maybe I'll end up looking like George Clooney. I don't know. Rob Kitzmiller sends in $2, says, we can start an Indiegogo for Dave to hit 98. Yes, that's it. An Indiegogo for me to hit 98. I don't know what all the perks would be and what that would go for or where it would go to. I have no idea, but you never know. You never know. Frank Riker says, bald is beautiful. You damn right, Frank. Bald is beautiful, ladies and gentlemen, and there is nobody on the face of the planet that would know better than Frank the Tank Riker right there. Frank the Tank Riker right there. Amazing, amazing. All right, folks, listen, that is going to do it for me for episode 257 of McRae Live. I want to thank, of course, my moderators, Frank Riker, Tab the Short, Darren Sands, Chris Baber, Cody Snyder, and Andrew Stevens. Thank you for doing what you guys do. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you, of course, to the super chats that came in today. Thank you to my channel members. If you want to become a member here on the channel, hit that join button and for exclusive content. We'd love to get our members up. Would be really amazing. And by the way, to my channel members, tomorrow night, 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, a member-only Q&A for just my members tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern. Just a reminder for that. So, yeah, folks, really appreciate you tuning in. Jump into the comment section and let me know your thoughts on this Friday the 13th Crystal Lake news. How do you feel about how I broke it down? Do you agree with me? Do you not agree with me? Jump into the comment section and let me know your thoughts. I really appreciate your time as always. So, yeah, have a great rest of your Tuesday, everybody. Stay safe out there, and I will talk to you all soon. Alrighty. In the meantime and between time, cheers.